Welcome to V'ger Please, a vile visit to Bajor. My name is Joseph.
I'm just waiting to get my polio vaccine that will also make me immune to bullets. Your co-host, Peter.
Peter, I want you to know that the reason why I didn't have a pithy opening is I was trying to find a way to say something almost exactly like what you said about the get a medical treatment, become immune to energy weapons. Leave it to you to find the path, right? Like you were the one that could get. I couldn't get there. I couldn't find my way there. I should have just thrown my rope out to you. You could have pulled me alongside you to greatness.
Greatness, I don't know if that's a word I would use for this week's episode, but I think there's other deviations of greatness you want to dig into first.
There is. I was talking actually about this episode a bit with my wife, Stevie, particularly talking about Dax, because Dax figures into this plot in a way that we've started to talk about more in regards to being a font of relationship advice. And I went on this long, appreciative rant to Stevie to say, like, Dax is such a cool character, the way that her experiences as Jadzia versus her experiences as the other incarnations of Dax factor into her personality as Jadzia, that they go into this lore about Trill and Join Trill, and that like Jadzia Dax is very clearly a woman, but her most recent experiences as a man, and that has a very specific effect on who she is and how she interacts with people, particularly the people she knew then. And it's very distinct. Jadzia is very clearly feminine and a woman, and acts and interacts with the world around her as a woman. And yet, though she still had these experiences as a man that she can use to inform the decision making she's doing now as a woman in a unique way, blah, blah, blah. Went in this long thing. And then my wife, because I married an absolute A-class sterling hater, looks at me and goes, yeah, man, it's a real shame they just obliterated all of that in Discovery and turned it into a stupid trans allegory, right? And I just wanted to throw something. It was so good. I was so angry. I know you never bothered to check back in on Discovery after season 1 or whatever.
That's right. I'm smart.
And that was smart. It was the right decision. You live a better life for that.
I do. Hey. It's called common sense.
It's the perfect encapsulation of how badly New Trek missed the fucking point of the stuff that came before, and they weren't trying to expand or build upon what was before, but it was like they were strip mining it without even really understanding its meaning. And so the reference here that I'm getting at is in Discovery in season, I don't know, 3, I guess, whatever, when they went into the future. They encounter a joined Trill, and the whole joined Trill experience is meant to convey an almost sexlessness transgenderism rather than what we see with Jadzia, which is a very clear differentiation between being a woman and a man. It's that their lifetimes inform each other to assist the person who's presently with the symbiote to have access to all of this information and all of these experiences. There's nothing transgender about Jadzia Dax at all. She is a woman. Curzon was a man, a dirty old man, as we are constantly reminded through his stories that Sisko relays about them getting in trouble trying to bang some chicks at some starbase somewhere. And that isn't transgenderism. That's very clear gender binary experiences that build on each other. And of course, modern writers wouldn't fucking pick up on that. Or if they did, they would choose to obliterate it on purpose because they have these political priors that demand that they atomize all of that nuance and turn it into this toxic soup. And all of New Trek is like that. And it's so fucking annoying.
It's a horse that's been dead that we've beaten already. It's beloved IPs being purchased and being exploited with modern agendas. It's why it's important for new properties to come out where the content creators are alive and involved, like Orville and so many others. And once a property is sold as a commodity, um, all bets are off. Speaking of other new Trek, I know that Lower Decks is in its final season. I don't know if they've finished yet.
It did finish, yeah.
So I'm going to have to grab those and watch them. And it's wintertime now, so what a perfect time to get caught up on some TV. But I'm looking forward to that. That's always been one of the reliables, but it's the same song we've sung many times. There was Picard season 3 as a shining beacon of what could have been possible.
Which was only like pretty good, right? Like we praise it and it deserves praise. It's a nice coda at the end of the TNG experience,
Mhm.
but it was still kind of only, wading pool level Star Trek. And yeah, we have beat this horse to death and back. I guess it's just been more on my mind because that stupid Section 31 movie's like a few weeks away from coming out.
Is it? Because I've forgotten about it already.
Yeah, and then and
there's
there's
no
like,
Gundar head to watch this stuff, and I'm happy, especially with Section 31. Just
it's a sign though of like it's something you said, and I did a lot of editing all at once for the episodes that have been coming out in the last few weeks, and something you said has stuck with me ever since I listened to you say it and edited it. Was I said this is Trek at height of its powers, is more popular than it's ever been, and he said, and it will never be that popular again. And it's true. It's absolutely true. And it's something that every time I see this crap that they're producing, I can't help but be to think about it. It didn't need to be true. That statement you made didn't need to be fucking true. As recently as 2022, there was just the glimmer of hope suddenly brought everyone back to wanting Star Trek to be good again and to engage with it and wanting to love it again. We're new Trek haters here if you're not familiar with our program, and we're proudly so. So hopefully if that scares you away, sorry not sorry.
it's not. We're not new Trek haters. I mean, we gave Strange New Worlds passing grades.
We get on season 1 got a B minus, and then season 2 was shit.
Season 2 had some good parts. Listen, it's not like we're sitting here and saying every single fucking thing is bad. We're putting a critical eye on, and that critical eye.
We tried. Oh yeah, we didn't just dismiss it. We tried. Like we liked a
like
lot of Lower Decks. We really wanted to like Strange New Worlds, and it just started stepping on its own dick immediately. We loved season 3 of Picard. We wanted to love season 1 of Picard. We reviewed season 1 of Picard.
I think we've been very fair every step of the way until Discovery got to a point where I just wasn't willing to put the time in anymore. And Picard season 2. Listen, Orville, some of the other stuff out there. Going back to the comment on, this stuff will never be that popular again, makes me wonder, like, what numbers are realistic for a sci-fi TV show to be able to accomplish? Off the top of your head, what do you think the biggest sci-fi TV show in the past 5 years has been?
Past 5 years, so since 2019, the biggest in the sense of the most viewership. Sci-fi television program.
Maybe Westworld?
Would you count Marvel Cinematic Universe television? Because in that case, probably Loki.
Which Loki season 2 did not have great numbers.
Loki season 1 was big.
God, could you call that? I don't think I would.
It is about a god time traveling. It's almost it's more fantasy than
I would
science
say
fiction.
Action. Even if you did count it, like, there's so many other places for people to put their attention and time. Video game, YouTube, whatever. These aren't. We're not in 1993 anymore, where you've got a very limited channel to enjoy media in, and as a result, you're going to have tons of eyeball showering stuff with the viewership. So, can you ever hit next generation numbers in sci-fi? I don't know, man. like Game of Thrones is able to pull that kind of attention in.
But yeah, that was probably the last monoculture moment. It was 2019. That was the last monoculture year. It was Avengers Endgame, and the last season of Game of Thrones was in 2019.
So,
well, you know what? Rants over. Sad reflections are over. Let's move on. What's the episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine that we reviewed this week, Peter?
speaking of 1993, first aired October 31st, 1993, Melora. This is season 2, episode 6. Teleplay by Evan Carlos Somers and Steve Baum and Michael Piller and James Crocker. Story by Evan Carlos Somers, directed by Rick Colby.
So you've no doubt noticed there's 4 teleplay names, and then a repeat of one of them is the story name. Most of this Memory Alpha talked about the writing process of this episode, and it was quite tortured and had 3 revisions. I think it shows in the final product. In particular, Evan Carlos Somers, he is somebody that wrote, unfortunately, some not bangers. Okay, he has 4 episodes of Star Trek he's ever written. He has Battle Lines, which was the one where the Bajoran Pope gets trapped on planet Mike Emintrout. This one, Melora, one coming up in season 2, Meridian, and then your favorite Voyager episode and mine, Ex Post Facto, the very beginning of the shitheads. So not somebody with a tremendous CV when it comes to Trek writing, and he got put on this because he's actually happens to be quadriplegic and is in a wheelchair. And he had a very different take on what the story should be like, apparently, than everyone else. And so he took his pass at it, and then it got chopped up.
This episode, I didn't read the wiki because I don't have 2 weeks.
I understand. That's what I'm here for. I take that burden on. You've got to care for a bunch of children. I have time to read the wiki.
Here's, in my mind's eye, this is how this script was drafted, was people standing around on the set commenting on all the sharp edges and low-hanging doors. And I believe the line they used was, why would they have a raised drum or a raised rim at the entrance to every door? This Cardassian architecture that we've talked about. I've specifically criticized the sick bay about, like, you've got this closet, but you can't reach the top shelf because, like, the trim on the door droops too low.
First, I love that Dax was smiling the entire time that she was going on that rant about how inaccessible Cardassian structural engineering is. And second, I assume this episode is just an ADA violation masterpiece for you, you know?
Absolutely. And that's really all this thing could be, is just people standing around on the set, tripping over stuff, banging their heads, guys with carts full of equipment trying to, like, move things between, like, filming location rooms and not able to do it. And someone like, geez, there's an episode about wheelchairs in here just waiting to happen.
And somebody decided to make it and then said, hey, don't we have a guy on the writing staff who's in a wheelchair? Have him do it.
That moment where someone said there's an episode about wheelchairs in Deep Space Nine waiting to happen. And that was the best possible version of the script right there. And that's where the joke should have stopped, because everything about this episode is ridiculous. I'm calling this thing a meh at best. You know what? Fuck it. I'm making it bad.
I would say that, would you call If Wishes Were Horses bad? The one with, like, where everyone's imaginations are coming to life in front of them?
No, that's a meh.
That's a meh.
Yeah.
I would say this episode is better than that.
No.
It's a meh, but it's, like, higher on the meh scale.
I will never think about this episode again. Nothing of value is added in this thing. I'm assuming she's a one and done character.
She is a one and done character, but there is such great Quark Odo content in here. Okay?
I don't know.
The Quark Odo B plot really helps this not be bad. Okay? I refuse to allow that material to be considered bad. It's not bad.
Listen, we're going to get to the best part of this episode here, which is the beginning, where we find out there's a new character, a new officer who's coming out, a cartographer, a stellar cartographer. She's from a race of people that are the...
They are the Elysians. Elysians. Yeah, let's go with
Elysians?
Elysian.
The
They're bird people.
Silesians?
They're they have hollow bones.
The Brittle Co. And conceptually it's cool. And speaking of the Orville, which did it better because they had the security women who were from a high gravity environment that were like Hulks by Earth gravity equivalents, right?
Correct.
She's from a very low gravity, so it feels like she's under immense pressure. Conceptually, this is cool, and it's something you don't really get to see in live action Star Trek a lot because it's expensive to do these special effects and make these accommodations for dolphin people or people that need these low gravity environments to float around in to be comfortable. Starfleet's a racial, multi-planetary operation. You got everybody from all walks of the universe, and it's using its fantastic technology to make life accessible and integrated for everyone. So cool. She's in. There's special considerations. Miles O'Brien and Julian Bashir, the doctor, of reading over what her requirements are, and they're doing the ADA Passover, which is what, American Disabilities? No, that's
ADA is American Disabilities Act.
So for an international audience, that's the regulatory apparatus.
There is a very well enforced regulatory framework around ensuring people with disabilities can access public accommodations equally in our country. And so when we say ADA violations, what we're talking about is the lip on all of the floor, the doors on Cardassian engineering would be an ADA issue or an accommodation issue. And the subplot is that O'Brien has been trying to retrofit like ramps onto things and make it so that as much of the station as possible is accessible by a wheelchair. But even he comes in and is like, listen, I can only do so much with this place.
Because in the future Federation, where Jim Kirk's flying around with anti-gravity boots and Star Trek 4?
5.
She should totally just have a suit that has like little repulsors on it that floats her around.
And apparently she does under most circumstances, apparently, but you can't use it on the fucking dirty ass space pilot station.
Because Starfleet cargo lifts and anti-grav units are incompatible with the building materials the Cardassians made Terok Nor with. And that translates into, that's an expensive special effect, so we're going to put her in a space wheelchair.
The other half of the goddamn a Memory Alpha is about the one scene of low gravity that they did and how complex and expensive and time consuming it was to do it.
Bullshit. Because I'll tell you what, I worked for a youth theater. All right, we did Peter Pan. We had fly lines, and there's nothing I saw in that scene that we weren't doing as a bunch of 11th graders. So I don't know. I'll blame the unions or something on that.
I would assume this is a union issue. They had to hire a bunch of extra stunt people or something, safety people. So a lot of folks got checks that they didn't want to write to do one scene.
And that's where the joke in all this comes from, is that you've got this ridiculous set where people are having to walk over big lips on doorways. It's going to create this hardship. And right off the bat, it's like, all right, so you've got this lady who is kind of a big deal because she is the first of her culture or her world to enter Starfleet. And somewhere in Starfleet Command, they go, well, there's going to be this mission. This is not a permanent assignment. She's on a mission to come out and begin these stellar cartography sweeps of the Delta Quadrant by herself. It's not a team. This is a one-person job. And out of everybody in Starfleet stellar cartography, we're going to pick this lady who is the nightmare scenario for posting at Deep Space Nine.
Literally the worst person you could pick to send them out. Like, okay, Got somebody who basically needs special accommodations to do their job. Fantastic. I am now going to send them to a place that is essentially a pit of vipers. Like just hazards everywhere. It's like you're playing Paperboy in real life. You're just gonna get hit by the car. The dog's gonna get you. That's where we're gonna send them.
The admiral over stellar cartography, the badmiral, the crazy admiral there.
Yes.
This
Crazy
is their version of crazy admiral plot is take Melora, put her in the one place in all of Federation territory where her special equipment will not work and this will be miserable. Over in the shipbuilding area, you've got mirror universe agents putting explosive devices behind TV panels and keyboards. Over there in stellar cartography, the mirror universe plant is sending her out to Deep Space Nine to make her life and the life of everybody else around her extremely difficult. That's basically where this entire plot line like stops being interesting, because it's a ridiculous premise. They send her out. Oh, also Julian Bashir has like major shades of Geordie LaForge / Leah Brahms going on here, right? Where he has become a complete fanboy simp for her Starfleet Academy experience. He's read all of her books. I'm sure he's digging around in her fucking personal logs.
I mean, at least he's successful though, right? Unlike Geordie. Like he learns all about the girl and then like lands the plane. You know, he's got charm. He's got some charisma where Geordie is missing it.
Geordie in some universes puts it in.
I mean, eventually, but it takes time. He makes the magic happen immediately here.
Yeah, but it's short term. You know, listen, Geordie, he's the turtle. Slow and steady wins the race. All right. This is Julian Bashir, the rabbit, who gets a little on the front end and then gets.
He pulls the zero G bang sesh down, but you know he can't get that long term partnership. But
he not only gets basically dumped, but has to sit through fucking Klingon medieval loot concert recitals.
Speaking of the Klingon loot recitals, that guy who played the Klingon chef, the Klingon restaurant comes up in conversation a lot for the rest of the run of the show, but unfortunately, the Klingon chef only shows up a couple times. He's played by the same guy who voiced the saxophone player on The Simpsons. Was it Gums Maloney or something like that? You remember?
I know which character you're talking about. Yeah.
So he apparently, you know, made his bones in the 90s by being a obnoxious, large, musically inclined special guest star.
Again, the world building that Deep Space Nine does is wonderful. I got more stuff to say about that restaurant. That restaurant was a high point for the episode for me.
The person in question here, Ensign Paslar, she's a real bitch. She has a chip on her shoulder, and so she snaps at everybody, including Cisco, which, you know, shows her iron will. She sees Death Row Cisco coming and is like, no, I don't care. I'm gonna be shitty to you too. And it makes her difficult to like, and I think it really harms the episode because you really don't understand why Julian is the one trying to like be friends with her.
You know, and Julian in his fanboyness was like, I've made some revisions to the chair so it's able to address these steep inclines on the ramps we've had to use on this, and a lot of other considerations which she holds against him because now these are not, you know, made to her exact specifications, which has thrown her training off. And again, like you said, it just really paints her in an unflattering and hostile light. I like that the portrayal between Bashir and O'Brien is clearly warmer than where it's been before. They've been working close together on this stuff. O'Brien is very warm, and there's good camaraderie already in effect between the two.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously, it's a dynamic that works, and I'm sure will continue to be expanded on for the next 6 seasons. But it was notable here, and it was good.
I don't know what I don't know if there's much to say about the Bashir Melora relationship that's interesting in and of itself. You know, like he tries to charm her by kind of pointing out that she's being very rude to everybody's defensive mechanism and she should probably think about not doing that. They go out to the restaurant. We'll talk about that in a second. Eventually, like she warms up to him. They're intimate, and that's ends up. Oh, and then Dax has a really important conversation with her about how making interspecies relationships and long distance Starfleet relationships work, which I thought was interesting in and of itself. But the relationship itself is like, oh,
Well, let's
it's
split
kind of
hairs on this,
passionless. Like, not a lot of chemistry between them. I don't really care.
because again, this is a bad episode. I'm gonna have to dig to find the good parts. Why is Bashir attracted to her?
Yeah,
She has a
key question,
persevere.
guys. Key question.
She is very clearly a fighter, and her perseverance to get through Starfleet and endure the hardship that she faces because of the gravity difference, like, is commendable.
Yeah.
Are these traits that we have seen him attracted to before?
We've only really seen him attracted to
To
Jadzia, right?
Dax?
Yeah. So
Like, we know this dude's a rake. Like, Jadzia's pointed out that, like, he's really made an effort, not made an effort, but while he is saying that, like, how much he loves this is if wishes were horses.
yeah, he's laid
The
some
better
pipe elsewhere.
episode
Yeah.
that I am drawing important lore from here, by the way.
Okay. All right.
You know, that he puts it in wherever he can, but it doesn't seem like he's really going out of his way to move mountains for girls. Like, he throws out his hey, here's my stories about Starfleet medical exam sessions, and that swoons some girls into his bed. But this guy really has to work hard to end up in a relationship with her. And I don't understand what, other than the script needs somebody to be the medical or the romantic interest for her. Why necessarily this is all Julian Bashir?
There's a natural opportunity to pair them up because her problem is a medical one in nature, so they're going to be on screen a lot together. So okay, Julian could be the romantic interest here. But like you said, they just don't do any of the basic work. When you said, why is he attracted to her? I mean, so good. What a fucking question, Peter. Like, exactly. Most times you don't have a question about that because they demonstrate why someone is attracted to somebody else. But instead, it's just a sort of, oh, she's great. She really tried hard and she's unique. And therefore, I've decided to become a simp for her. And that's really it. And it doesn't really, that does not in and of itself align with the personality traits that we are aware of for Julian Bashir, as you so adequately summarized. So if you are not explaining or offering an understanding as to why two people are going to be attracted to each other in your story, you should probably not do that. You should probably find a way to fucking explain it.
Because not only is she a bitch, she is also a liability to the crew. And I'm not saying that from she might reach a accessibility issue. She's supposed to go and start mapping, stuff in the Delta Quadrant where the Federation has zero formal presence. We still haven't even posted up that Miranda or a Oberth just to hang out over on the other end and help as needed. And she's like, I can take Runabout out there and map things. And they're like, well, Cisco wants someone else to go. And she's like, well, I don't need that. And Cisco sits her down and is like, I'm not letting you go over there alone. And she's like, but you totally should. And it's like, well, now would be a great time to be like, let me tell you about the time the fucking Pope died over there.
The guy wrote that one too. Should be able to tell you about it.
Let me tell you about the time murderers came through here for like 6 weeks straight. And let me tell you about the time that rocks knocked a guy out who doesn't have a brain to like concuss. Like, it is wild and bad over there, and I'm already down one runabout.
They
There's
also
no.
play literally the most dangerous game.
Oh yeah, that too.
That also happened, and you will not the boots that they're going to come hunt you with. You don't want to see those.
Yeah, so you're going with somebody else because that's the reasonable thing, and you're fucking new here, and there's like all this pushback and lip. I really I don't like her. She has very white teeth. They're beautiful teeth, and that is not enough to charm her out of the hole that this story has put her into.
But let's talk about the things that are good. First things first, the Klingon restaurant. What a perfect bit of flavor to put into the station, right? We know it's supposed to have this big bustling promenade. It's supposed to have all these businesses, but we never see them because budgets are limited, right? We only
Sometimes
see Quarks, really. We get the Replimat with the voyeur vent, but none of the
we got
places.
the weird maple syrup popsicle thing.
Oh, the Jum Jum sticks. Yes, of course.
Your ability to remember these fucking absurd terms that are one and dones. Just
I've watched this show so many times, Peter. I cannot help but know these things.
Jum sticks. Get the fuck out of here.
Important life events have been pushed out of my memory so I can recall Jum sticks. I'm as mad about it as you.
We know that the Klingons have an interest in the Delta Quadrant. The telepathic persona dramatis or whatever, like that was all the result of Klingons fucking around over there. So if you've got good Klingon traffic going through there, the Duras sisters were hanging around, absolutely makes sense. You're going to have some Klingon street food, right?
And just the concept of a Klingon restaurant and what that means being on screen is just perfectly done. What is a Klingon restaurant? It's an angry man who shouts at you and says, "What is your order?" And you say what you want, and he just reaches into a bowl and throws it on the plate till you say you're done, and then you give him your money, and he hands you the food, and he bites the money like he's a middle ages like storekeeper.
Pirate. Yeah.
Like, and then maybe he'll go around with a little lute and he'll sing opera for you. Like, yes, that is what a Klingon it is, a warrior's restaurant. I see it.
Continuity. I'm if this is live plach plach or whatever, it's meat, and we know that Federation stomachs aren't really built to handle real meat products anymore. So they don't make a big deal out of it here. But I think there should have been some conversation about, like, you're going to eat that meat. That's real meat.
Well, I think there's Julian is portrayed as a character that's worldly, or he wants to be worldly. He's somebody who's probably trained his stomach to be able to eat gach or whatever.
His story about trying to pursue professional tennis, I thought was very interesting. In the knowledge that because it's basically his origin story. His dad's a diplomat. They're on a mission. He watched a girl die. Very sad. I thought that was a very good story for him and why he is the way he is, and that they were surrounded by herbs that could have saved the girl, and he didn't know about that. And that's, kind of the catalyst for him getting into medicine, except for he tried to be a professional tennis player first. We know he's genetically engineered. You and I know that. They haven't divulged it yet. I find it impossible that he was not a better tennis player than the other guy. And I'm wondering if they're going to go back to that story and be like, I could have kicked that guy's ass in tennis. I wanted more. I wanted to go into the medical thing.
I'm not going to say anything. It's a very interesting thought. I will be excited for when they start to do the Julian Bashir genetic engineering plotline. It is interesting, though, to think about conversations like this and how the character develops when clearly I don't think they had thought of that yet. And they had to be able to think about these scenes and have to go back and address them later.
Easy retcons to do if that's what you're setting out for, because they're simple stories that are very easy to shift the viewpoint to point at something different. flipping over to this Quark Odo thing.
Ah, yes.
Quark's not ripping off. Quark is doing a legitimate business transaction where he's financially abusing people to get their priceless artifacts back into their home worlds.
But he is a deal's deal. You know, he's willing to get this guy his gold bracelets if he's willing to part with an absurd amount of latinum, which he says he is. So he's wheeling and dealing, but it's above board for him. And then he has a problem though, is that a man enters in shadow in his doorstep with a musical sting, and in Star Trek, you know you're fucked if that's what's going on. Like, holy shit, you came with a change to the score? That's not good. And sure enough, he comes over. He's astonished to see him. Tries to butter him up, and this guy, he's all business. He sits down. He takes a drink, and then tells Quark, "I'm actually here to kill you." We will later find out that the reason why he's there to kill him is that they were trying to smuggle Romulan ale together, and Quark essentially rolled on him and sent him to a Romulan fucking prison camp so that he could go free.
I can't take this guy because he's one of these loop handle nose people where the tip of the nose has a skin bridge that goes down and joins to the chin.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
They love that shit on DS9. They love
Dude,
that
look.
look
This is
here.
the second one of these guys they've used.
Yeah.
They used them somewhere else before. It's such a stupid fucking concept.
It's the shitheads of DS9 is like the, what would you call it? The hook face?
The handle nose. I don't
handle nose? Yeah.
The pistol grip face. Like, first of all, you can't eat right because you've got something blocking your fucking mouth. You can't bite into anything. I hope apples are not a big fruit wherever he's from. And also, in any fight, I guarantee you someone is grabbing him by his chin nose and holding it like a handle as they savagely beat them about the head, neck, and chest regions. If it wasn't on his face, there would be no problems with this plot for like 90% of it. But this guy's there. He looks ridiculous. He tells Quark, "I'm going to kill you," which, to be fair, on Deep Space Nine is not a crime because Worf has told people he is going to kill them. And also there was a bonus Degra who also told people that he was going to kill, I believe, no, it was the hobo with the shotgun that Quark had hired, right? That was
Correct.
the guy that, speaking of Odo getting hit in the back with a rock, which at what point does Odo have to learn, like, okay, when someone is saying, "I'm going to murder you," like,
maybe that can be a crime. maybe threats can be sufficient for detaining someone, maybe.
Gosh, maybe I really just need to pay close attention because this one goes sideways in a big way to a point where I think Death Row Cisco needs to have a sit down with Odo and be like, "You are doing a bad job. I'm giving you a performance review right now. And sir, you need improvement. And here's your personal improvement plan is when someone openly threatens to murder someone else before my runabouts are getting hijacked in some sort of Grand Theft Auto nonsense. Like, you need to be there as the painting on the wall to unfurl at the last moment and keep Quark from getting kidnapped and bad stuff from happening." Now, was Odo motivated by, I don't know, petty incentive to ignore Quark's cry for help?
He never ignored it. He just, enjoyed his suffering. It's a.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I liked this. I liked this line he took of.
Let's go back to another episode that was better than this one. Oh, say If Wishes Were Horses.
You just got beat the fuck out of me with this one, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. Because in that one, what was Quark's fantasy? Well, I'm sorry, what was Odo's fantasy? Because while Quark was fantasizing about more Dabo girls sporting underboob, what was Odo's fantasy?
Having Quark in jail.
What was Julian Bashir's fantasy?
Fucking Jedzia.
Now, I'm not saying that Jake Sisko and his dad had a shared fantasy to gangbang a baseball player And I'm certainly not saying that Miles O'Brien's fantasy was to fuck a little monster that was there to abduct his child. But I'm saying it's highly that there's a high correlation that a lot of people's fantasies on that station were to fuck things.
Absolutely. I think we discussed that at the time, that the reason why these aliens never came back and refused first contact is they just got run through.
Yeah.
Like these horny corporeal beings, we can't handle it.
So here's what I'm putting on the table is that Odo's fantasy about Quark being locked up in a dungeon was sexual. And that when Quark comes to Odo and says, "You got to help me. This guy said he's going to kill me." And Odo gets this real strange smile on his face as he looks what I'm going to call lustfully at Quark. That what he's doing in that moment is indulging some sort of a snuff fantasy murder porn scenario in his mind. And that is the true nature of that smile.
It is predatory.
It is very predatory. It's lewd.
I love how much Odo is just happy to tell Quark to his face, "Oh yeah, no, I know it's happening. I know this guy showed up to kill you. Are you kidding? I was on top of it immediately. What are you gonna do about it? Nothing. Because I read as to why he went to jail. Your name was on the indictment. You didn't go to jail. I am a law enforcement official. I know what you fucking did. Like, you snitched. You snitched on your boy you were running fucking ops with. And now you're here and he's back and he's pissed about it. And you know what? You deserve it. You slimy little asshole. You deserve it. I've seen how many crimes you commit on the station. You keep getting away with it. I don't understand. Didn't you almost get us killed like 3 episodes ago, you fuck? Like whenever that stupid Trill showed up, try to capture Jenzia's worm. It's like, you deserve this. Go back and deserve what's happening to you.
Yeah, but then on the flip side, he's like,
But I'll do my job. I won't let him kill you.
I'm
not allowed to let him kill you.
No, we can't just detain him. Since when? Like, again, they're still figuring these characters out. Like, when does Odo prize the letter of the law over what he feels justice should be? Because I think season 1 Odo certainly would have been harsher on this guy or run him off the station or potentially pre-incarcerated him.
And then maybe season 2 Odo has gotten a little bit more play in the joints, where he's, all right, let's see what's going on with this. I can't really just kick him out. He hasn't done anything yet.
This is going to be one for the books because this gets pretty bad. He has had a criminal informant come to him and finger him as a potential murderer waiting to happen. And then skipping forward a little bit here, I do like how the A and B plots intersect on this.
Yeah, there is an A and B, but they actually come together at the end.
So let's flip back over.
Before we get to the climax, I do want to mention the one scene where Melora talks to Dax about romance. Because it is what led to me to talking a lot about Dax earlier. And I like that. First she asked, like, hey, have you ever made an interspecies relationship work? And she's like, yeah. No, I've made it work. And she's got that look on her face like, yeah, there's adventure there. And then she corrects herself to say, like, no, I mean, like, really work, like, as a relationship. And she, like, takes an emotional step back for a second and goes, I'd have to go back 150 years. It's been a second since I've worked out one of those.
Jumping back real quick to the Klingon restaurant. Did you notice the first time they go to eat there, when they leave, it's 2 Pakled that walk up and make an order?
No kidding. No, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, it was really cool use of costuming there. That scene between them feels very Lower Decks in great ways. And yeah. I have to assume that it's scenes like that form later Lower Decks things, because this is the kind of stuff that, boy, those are conversations worth having. TOS didn't really have the depth to hit that kind of stuff. Next Gen was a love boat out in space. You could just live together, and it presented this image of the Federation where you could live and work in the same place where you were married, and that was possible. And no one from the major crew was married, at least at first. But hey, that's how they kind of handle these things. And now you start getting out to the fringes of the galaxy, and you've got the Julian equation in there, which is somebody who is. And is there anybody else we can really cite at this point that is like, I joined Starfleet for adventure?
No one else, aside from, like, I guess at a certain level, all of the Enterprise crew members sort of had that as a tertiary thought. Like Mayweather, that sort of thing. Like wanted
Well,
to do.
I'm not even. I'm saying just up to this point. When I'm talking about this stuff, it's.
I'm just thinking about all of Berman era Trek. I think that's not actually a common character motivation at all. I think like that you're right to point out that this is unique among major characters, that he's like literally decided he wanted to go on a grand adventure, like a British noble in the 19th century.
An expedition. All the guys in the Enterprise D, like maybe once upon a time they joined for some degree of adventure, but they are all refined and accomplished officers serving on the flagship.
Yeah, by the time they were on screen.
Julian joining Starfleet to get into adventure and do zany shit, like that should be a large swath of Starfleet. Why have you left the post-scarcity utopia of Earth and gone out to a truck stop next to a space butthole? It's to live this wild life. And is that something that is going to be accommodating to relationships long term? And this lady looking to get serious or considering getting serious with him after one night of floating around and fucking in the air in her quarters, dragging these conversations out into public for the viewers. Like, okay, she's on a limited assignment. She's going to be moving on. I like that Jadzia calls it a subspace relationship.
Yeah, romance by subspace. Yeah.
And again, this is stuff that they touch on in Lower Decks because Mariner's mom, who is an admiral, her mom's the captain and the dad's the admiral, and they have this long distance relationship that's obviously working for them. It's a culture that would have to develop through Starfleet, and they touch on it in Strange New Worlds with Pike and his girlfriend and Kirk and the stuff he gets into. So that's cool world building there. They're doing the mapping amazingly. I think this marks the first mission into the Delta Quadrant where someone wasn't attacked while in the Delta Quadrant.
Yeah, the Delta Quadrant itself is not actually the problem. The problem is Ed brought to the Delta Quadrant for a change. But there is a subplot within the A plot where maybe Melora doesn't have to be in a wheelchair anymore because Julian can work this change to her that'll allow her to exist in normal gravity environments, no problem.
Which is another curveball. Like, everything about this lady has shown that she wants to overcome adversity, that she wants to explore the stars, and that she is not a homebody. And ultimately, when confronted with a genie lamp to cast a wish to be able to accomplish all of those things, she suddenly gets cold feet.
And this is where, by the way, the script got butchered because the original writer didn't not want to go down this road that, as this is his interpretation, that the quote disability is cured, end quote. Right. So this is a big, even in the 90s, this is something where people who have disabilities, like say being confined to a wheelchair, will instead, rather of fantasy about not being confined to a wheelchair, will instead want the fantasy to be about how the wheelchair is no longer an impediment to your life. This, I assume, is because you would like that fantasy feels more achievable than something like suddenly my spine will no longer be completely fucked up and I'll be able to stand up. It wasn't gonna make for interesting television unless you put that into the equation, but that this is a primary issue along which the butchering of the script ultimately was focused.
Well, the seams are very visible here
Yeah.
because it doesn't jive with what her character drive feels like. It's this huge breakthrough that Julian just kind of seems to like wander into. And when you're talking about the Federation of technocrats, like a huge oversight with long reaching implications, I think. And hopefully that gets touched on a little bit. But not only is she, they frame it like, okay, you can walk, but you're going to have to trade one life for another. And I did think the Little Mermaid reference was well placed there. She starts getting cold feet seemingly out of nowhere. She's within this warranty period where she can return the product and get her old life back, which she seems kind of keen on doing. But while they're coming back from this mission that was very successful in the Delta Quadrant, things are happening on Quark's end. He gets abducted by Pistol Face, by Pistol Grip Face, right?
Yes, he
He
does.
says, "I'm here to kill you. I'm going to assault you in your quarters." And Quark's
Went to
like,
the Julian Bashir school of not locking his door. Real fucking mistake there. Odo tried to like bring him in and tell him like, I understand why you want to kill Quark and kind of get off on it. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not actually going to let you kill Quark. You know that, right?
"I just
And
like
he
to
said,
edge it."
yeah. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm great. I'm fine. I'm definitely not going to murder him. And Odo's like, yeah, okay. He's definitely going to murder him. Quark, here's a comm badge. Call me if he tries to kill you. If he's successful, I promise to buy your head or something later on when your body's auctioned off.
So the guy attacks him in his quarters, seemingly to kill him. Quark's like, "I'm going to bribe you not to. Not out of my savings I've got there on the wall, but I'm going to tap you into a business deal I'm doing to sell back priceless artifacts, in fact, for a price to the planet where they were taken from." And he gives the guy the money, and then Handle Face pulls out a gun and goes, "We're going to escalate this. I'm going to shoot this guy. We're going to take the money and the gold." Granted, when this all started, my goal was just to kill you in your quarters, which I assume would require me to have some sort of an escape route if I'm going to murder you. And the security guy just like pulled me in to grill me about my intent to murder you, right?
Right.
We're going to do this impromptu stick up. I'm going to complicate things, shoot the guy. By the way, I don't have an escape plan.
By the way, I don't really have a plan for anything that comes next. I just have maximum aggression and terrible decision making.
Look at that. There's Jadzia Dax and special guest star Melora coming off a runabout. I guess we're going to GTA this runabout and get into zany hijinks from here. Again, I reiterate, this guy's plan was to kill Quark after the security chief just said, "Don't kill Quark." No shuttlecraft, no zero escape routes. This guy's just a lunatic, right? I can just chalk it up to that. That's fine. But that also, again, just makes Odo look even worse. And all of a sudden, this is all thrown in Sisko's lap. And Sisko's like, "What the fuck is going on? People are stealing runabouts. I've got him on the tractor beam." The guy turns and shoots Melora. Like, "I'm not fucking around. I've taken hostages. I'm going to kill someone." Had they just killed her ass off right there, I thought that would have been really good.
That would have been an unexpected gut punch. Instead, it's super awkward because the characters, I guess, are supposed to believe that Melora is dead, including Bashir specifically. So she gets shot. She falls over. They think she's dead. You know, Sisko, for his part, absolutely snaps to attention. He's like, all right, Chief, Doctor, you come with me. Kira's very briefly in this episode to beam them onto a different shuttlecraft that has the runabout that has the giant torpedo rack on it. It's like, give me the one with the guns. We're going to chase after these people. I'm going to take them out the old fashioned way. Fuck them. And they go off to do that. there's wacky hijinks that are involved with Melora not actually being hurt because apparently her treatments made her immune to gunfire. Whoops.
Which you want to talk about some, what would you call it before, spackle?
Yes. Wonder why. It's like literally later on, she's just sitting in the Klingon restaurant like, yo, why am I alive? Why did I not die when I got shot? Like, I should have dead, right? It's just, but she was like, I don't know. Maybe the medical shit I'm doing made you immune to bullets.
Are you sure you don't only, like, offers on the table? You could be stuck in a wheelchair for the rest of your career.
Or
you could walk around without this disability and also be immune to gunfire.
you want to go from a stiller to cartographer to the greatest Federation security chief of all time. Like, I would like to apply for the job. What are your qualifications? Well, I have undergone medical treatment that makes it so that when someone shoots me, I don't die. Sign me up.
Ridiculous. There needed to be a point in the ops scene where they're flying away and there's like gunfire and whatever. And Sisko needs to be like, who the fuck is this guy with the hula hoop glued to his face? With old bracelet face over it. Where did this guy come from that has my best friend hostage and just killed the new girl that I've had to put like a ton of emotional energy into? Well, sir, about that shooter, turns out he was on an FBI watch list.
The shooter was known to authorities.
That's what I want.
It's literally true.
I want the title. Like, the shooter was known to authorities.
That's going to be the title of this episode. The shooter was known to authorities. That's it. Done.
They fly off, and you just get this terrible ending where, and somehow she survived this, what appeared to be so are we to assume that this relic broker was murdered in the hallway? Because the pistol was on, like, so that's dark as fuck.
Well, I mean, Stevie literally called it. It's a somehow Palpatine returns.
That's what I'm saying, right? Like,
yeah. It's like
he kills this fucking. And I keep waiting for, like, when is the good part of this episode going to happen? Because she's somehow alive. She sneaks to the back. This guy's completely written her off. Like, his neck stops working. He's not looking around at all.
Bashir's little, oh, she is alive. Like, oh, I like that. Like, really, that's the energy you got there? You thought she was dead and that's it? Okay.
Turns off the gravity in the runabout very easily. And suddenly, the lack of gravity means that this guy can no longer move his wrist to angle the gun to shoot her ass again. And once she removes his advantage of gravity, she's able to, like, Raiden fly at him slowly through the cabin of the runabout and, like, tackle him in the ribs while he's holding this fucking gun. And they ramrod a happy ending in there. And it is just ridiculous and insulting trash. And I'm waiting for the point where I'm like, okay, I see what they're doing here. Because they just took all the gold back and they got Quark's payment. Like, this is another situation like Murder Hobo, where Quark's setting up a guy to for a double cross where he's, like, using the bad guy as a patsy, right? Like, this is going to be a big Quark caper, right? And he's got, like, no culpability because he tried to tell Odo. No, none of that. This guy was just a crazy murderer who had no escape route that got any adventure that ends with him getting space tackled by the girl that was in the wheelchair.
Yep. And then they break up while at the Klingon restaurant while a very large man sings to them.
This is a bad episode. I don't.
I am starting to agree that it's maybe not great.
I'm going to blame the fact it's not great on Mike Pillar and James Crocker, I think. The end, like, this thing really just falls apart hard with the procedure that could have fixed her problems and the nonsense to try and tie it all together. I do like her and Jadzia getting ambushed as they just got off of a mission. But yeah, this thing's a turkey.
Well, I'm not going to fight you on it, Peter. Like, I after this is one of those times I think you've convinced me. I kind of wanted to like it because I really like the Quark scenes and I like the Dax scene. But the more I think about it, that's like 15 minutes.
And
That's
that's
not
not
enough. This is a bad
terrible.
episode. Yeah.
There's cool stuff that we've been able to mine value out of it, but this is, and I think had this been Enterprise or Voyager, this would have been perfectly fine. But season 2 specifically has come out so strong that this thing is noticeably bad.
Well,
Up next, though,
we'll have better odds for the next one. What
I
is
don't
it?
know. This is going to be a Ferengi episode. It looks like Rules of Acquisition, season 2, episode 7, written by Ira Stephen Bear, story by Hilary Bader, and this is a David Livingston. Gran Nagasek assigns Quark to initiate negotiations with the planet in the Gamma Quadrant, but Quark's new associate is not what he seems.
The Ferengi episodes have a reputation. I tend to like them because Quark's awesome. We get more Wallace Shawn, like we like the first one. We'll see. That'll be interesting to see where you land on the Ferengi episode question. So we'll all find out together though when we review more Star Trek Deep Space Nine next week. See you then.